Welcome to the Lansing Connection. I'm Senator Nancy Cassis and pleased to be with you today. Thank you for allowing us into your homes. This is really part of the fall edition, and we are on the verge, of course, of making history with a general presidential election just almost immediately upon us. By the time you hear this in your homes and see us, that will have already taken place. We are also on the verge in the legislature of heading back to Lansing for what is called our quote-unquote lame duck session, in which all the work of the past 2 years at least we would try to finish up and get accomplished. Some will, some won't. Some of those bills will never get accomplished because the sponsors are term limited and won't be coming back. But certainly there are pieces of legislation that will be reintroduced. Today, my guest is a very special friend and colleague. He hails from St. Clair County. His name is Senator Jud Gilbert, and he is Vice Chair of the Senate Finance Committee, along with myself as Chair. And I really value his input, his insights, and perhaps most of all, his sense of humor. And I'm glad you're about ready to meet my friend, Jud. Jud, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy.
Jud, we certainly have not been in session for a number of weeks, but yet our work goes on. Tell us a little bit about the county you represent, the communities you represent, and perhaps what is the greatest issue facing them as you listen to them, I know you're always out and about. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, I represent two counties, St. Clair County and Lapeer County. Lapeer County is more of a rural county. It has a lot of agriculture in it. St. Clair County has a little agriculture, but mainly it's made up of, the tool and die shops. Many people travel to Detroit, work in the auto industry. And of course, the biggest issue in my district is, like I probably just about everywhere else, is the issue of jobs and employment. We have a high number of people that are unemployed. The Port Huron areas have been historically above the state average. So it's good to be on finance, to work on those issues that can perhaps help business.
Absolutely. And you recently, well, really last spring, were part of a subcommittee of Senate Finance that toured the state to listen to people who really found that the new Michigan business tax is not much better, and in some cases worse than the old business tax, the single business tax. Also, you and I worked together in that committee that really worked with members of the House on trying to forge a compromise agreement on a new Michigan business tax. I think we'd be the first to say we didn't get all we wanted.
No.
No.
But without us, it would have been much worse.
Amen.
Right.
Without us. So you mentioned the economy as being particularly of great concern to small businesses, and I agree with you, because really the tax shift from the old SBT to the MBT, that shift, that redistribution, hit small businesses very hard.
Right.
So what were the findings of our subcommittee hearings that particularly you would like to underscore and work on?
Well, I think there were three things, and two of them were certainly negative. The one thing is when we talk about small business, perhaps we should explain that. Under the Michigan business tax, there's what's called the small business tax credit. For those who have gross receipts less than $20 million, they have a certain way they are taxed, which actually, I think because of what we promoted in those negotiations, those people do marginally better than they did under the SBT. And the other thing we did is we put more people in that category by raising the threshold from 10 million to 20 million. But for those people that inch over the 20 million for various reasons, one of their big concerns is the gross receipts tax. This is something, as a matter of fact, one of our Democratic counterparts I talked to and said, when did we agree to some of these things? And he said, we never agreed to these things. And you have a bill, Senate Bill 1038, which is going to clean up the gross receipts. And the problem is that there's a tax on a tax. Bottle deposits are in there, numerous other things that normally are not taxed. And we want to clean that up. That was one of the things that most people were quite upset with. If you think of a gas station owner who maybe has 4 or 5 gas stations to get over that 20 million, and with the price of gasoline, maybe you don't need 4 or 5 gas stations to get over that threshold. But they are paying on their federal gas tax, the sales tax, the state gas tax, and of course, you know, they get bottle deposits. So a large amount of the money they're paying when they pay their portion of the MBT through gross receipts is taxes on taxes. That's not right. We never intended that. That needs to be done right away. The other was the surcharge that we put on last December. I like to remind people that it was in lieu of the service tax, which was much worse. But again, you know, it's kind of a premium on businesses that they have to pay in this state. And many were very upset about that needed to be rolled back, you know, sooner rather than later. And we have legislation trying to achieve both those goals.
Absolutely, and that's what you heard when you were on the road. Just recently, I had a business owner of a very familiar florist business, nursery business, locally in Oakland County. And she had heard that her tax liability was going up 50, maybe 100% or more. And you've just touched on one of the things we found out, that many CPAs or accountants were not aware of how we expanded the alternative business tax to help businesses. And so I explained it to her, and she said she was going to check it out. Well, obviously, I think she probably did, and I hope it has worked out because I haven't heard back.
Right.
So you've already done, I think, a marvelous job of giving some small business people hope to be able to reduce some of their liability. Another problem was this unitary feature of the Michigan business tax. So if you own more than one business, they all consolidate into the gross receipts. And you are aware, as I am, of bad debts for companies that aren't able to collect on what is owed them. It seems unimaginable that we'd actually tax that bad debt. We would be the only state, I believe, to have a tax on a tax in terms of people collecting the sales tax and then being taxed on that again themselves. That's pretty bizarre as well. So our committee, and I really give a great deal of credit to you and Senator Mark Jansen and Senator Michelle McManus, who have taken the lead on some of these issues. Right now, repealing the 22% surcharge by phasing it down over 3 years, that's an initiative by Senator Jansen. We've passed it now over to the House. We have also passed Senate Bill 1038 that again would get rid of the tax on the tax. But that's short-term fixes, and we know there's more to do, which I'm sure, over the next 2 years. I know you're committed to it, as I am, to work on a long-term solution to make it a more fair, equitable, balanced business tax.